friends. This is Kendra Prospero, host of How I Turned the Corner. I'm here today live at the Rocky Mountain Total Rewards Conference, bringing you some of the thought leaders that we have here today. Rarely, when we talk about compensation, do we talk about how it relates to productivity. Well, in today's economy, the comp model is still following the old industrial model of work. Butts in seats equals productivity. Well, we know that things have changed drastically in these last few years. Well, today we're joined by Scott Cawood, CEO of WorldatWork and author of The New Work Exchange, where he explores this idea. Scott has helped shape how organizations think about total rewards, pay equity, and the employee experience. Scott, welcome to How I Turned the Corner.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So appreciate some time to chat about cool issues, I think, around this world of work thing. So it's good to be here.
Excellent. Well, so let's talk about this idea of this sort of industrial model of butts in seats leading to productivity. What do you see now as the new way of doing compensation so that it doesn't account for that anymore?
Yeah, if you look back about how we found ourselves here, it's because when the workforce changed from farms, went into factories, and if you look at the schedule of when you were farming, which we all did for a certain amount of time, that was our work, that was dictated by the sun. When did it rise? When did it set? And the season. Then we moved into factories and it became, you have to have your butt in a seat here, a certain amount of time a day, and that equaled, a good day of work. And so as we've left that and more people are able to work remotely, more people are working from airplanes, more people are working from wherever they want.
Coffee shops.
Right. There's no longer the same ability for us to say, hey, you've been here for 9 hours, and that's productivity. Things like tenure, right? That never maybe really measured productivity anyway. But in today's workforce, we're going to have to figure out what productivity means. Because if you ask anybody, you can say, we pay for performance. I always question that because I'm not sure exactly we know what we're paying for. It's a whole bunch of things, but it necessarily isn't just on performance. So managers who are still thinking, I need to see you to know how productive you are,
yeah.
It's an outdated construct back from the factory days where most of us don't work any longer. Even if you're in a factory, there are plenty of ways to think about productivity unrelated to how much time I spent there. And it gets to one of the very valuable currencies in work today. It's freedom currency, financial freedom, right? You want financial freedom and you want your time freedom. If you want a good idea out of me, don't ask me at night. I work early morning and I'm very creative. So I should be able to choose when I want to be working because I'm most creative in the morning. And so there's some degree of that freedom currency, which is much more valuable than it used to be. And you're not going to get it if you're measuring my productivity by how long I'm sitting somewhere.
I totally agree. In our world, we call this agency.
Yeah.
The ability to work where you want, when you want, how you want. For my team and my company, I have no idea where anyone is on my team except one person, Heather, right? Because she's right here in front of us.
Right.
So I have no idea, and I don't have a need to know that. And I've run my company like this since 2011. So
you're early adopter on that.
Super early adopter on this because I also saw and feel my own need for productivity at a certain time. Like sometimes I get a burst of energy on Saturday morning.
Right.
I want to work then. Sometimes I don't feel that same way on Monday afternoon. So don't want to have to be forced into a butt in a seat at that time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's and there's probably more room than we're thinking that you could offer that freedom and flexibility if we're just willing to extend that trust. And you can double down on expectations relative to outcomes, right? You can measure your outcomes. And if you're hitting the outcomes, does it really matter where I am when I'm doing the work? To some, I think it does, but in the end, it really doesn't matter. If you can get the work done wherever you want and you're in a better position to do it, who knows, from a beach, right? Why can't we consider that work? Because work is no longer a place. And that's a construct we want to reiterate. Work is no longer a place. And it was for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? The factory was here. The farm was right here.
Yeah.
But work isn't necessarily a place anymore. That opened up new, cool opportunities for people.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree with that. So why do you think so many leaders are struggling with this? I mean, we've got this now whole movement for return to office. Why?
It's very telling. When we first saw the people coming back to the office happen, right? Maybe, 2 years ago now, I guess. The words that the CEOs chose were important to hear because they didn't say, come back because our culture is decimated. They said, come back because I want you to work harder. I heard the word harder from a lot of CEOs at the time. And I want to question the word harder. Why does working harder, right? why is that? There's many things you could do. You could work smarter, you could work differently, you could work faster, but why harder? And I think it's back to this production mindset that being here for a certain amount of time equals productivity again, right? It's driving that. I don't know that we want everybody to always work harder. We want them to deliver and delight the customer. We want them to deliver more revenue for the organization. We want to raise stakeholder value. But I don't know that working harder is the right path only to get there. Some need to work harder, of course. And when we saw everybody going back to the office, there were perks galore coming out. We had dogs washing stations being put in. You had coupons for lunch. You got your gas paid for, your public transportation paid for. Lizzo even did a concert in one of the companies in California as all their employees came back to the office the first day. There's Lizzo singing. So there was a lot of perks being thrown in the beginning. Not so much right now. We don't see the perks there anymore. And I guess the question is, are you really getting what you need from your workforce? After this taste of flexibility, that's a really valuable commodity to have at work. So where you can be flexible and offer that freedom, I encourage companies to do it and try some things. Just keep an eye on the outcomes. If you're delivering the outcomes, you're still going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to add in there one more thing that I think causes leaders to not want to have, or that why they want people to come back into the office, which is they actually have their own perspective on that they don't trust their employees. And I often will say, if your issue is because you don't trust that they're actually working and they're being productive, you have a bigger issue. It is actually not about them being productive or not. It's kind of about your head trash that you have about what makes someone productive or not.
I think head trash is a good description there. And, I almost call it like it's a work hangover. You've got these hangover constructs about what work could be. But in your example right there, I think it's a good moment to say, what does a good job look like today? Because does it really have to be 40 hours to get the output? Does it have to be a 9 to 5? 9 to 5 for all realistic purposes is going away, right? It's not going to have the power that it once did. So redefining now what good job looks like, it doesn't look the same as it did maybe even 10 years ago, but that's a key element for leadership teams. What do you want your employees to deliver on? And does it really matter the time of day or the amount of time they work? It's the deliverables. So I guess I like that kind of notion of helping companies think through. We don't need to be so fixated on annual everything, right? Annual performance review, an annual increase. Why annual? Right? Why?
Really? And I mean, you're not
why 40 hours? Like really, it doesn't quite fit in the work of today as much as it did before.
Yeah. So let's tie this back then into why we're all here today, which is compensation and total rewards. So if we're going to make this change from maybe the 40-hour work week or even maybe the 5-day work week, let's say, how does this tie back into compensation then and how we reward people?
We're seeing lots of movement in the comp space right now. And there's a construct, a term called the velocity of money. If from econ days will know. And basically, if I give you $20 for something and you give your friend $20 for babysitting and she gives that $20 to the grocery store, it creates the value chain, right? And we need people the velocity of money to be fast. And so one thing to think about is if you can put the compensation programs to those who need it the most. For example, your hourly employees would benefit greatly from being paid weekly versus every other week. We've seen some companies go to daily pay. So you get an ATM card, you work your shift, on the way home, you stop at the ATM, and you get your cash for the day. Right? These are unheard of types of pay systems, but it also puts more money in the hands of those who need it. I can guarantee you a little flexibility and also getting paid more frequently is going to be a huge commodity and a win for your lower level employees who don't have as much access to money as maybe some of your senior folks. So I just encourage people to be thinking about compensation from a completely different way. And I always tell people, if you're not willing to blow the whole thing up and start over, you're not going to make as big of an impact as you could. So be ready to start over. Take it all down and rethink it, because what you're paying for may be not what you think you're paying for. And you can connect those two items better. What you're working for, what you're doing, and the compensation. So I think it's a great opportunity to rethink comp programs. And they certainly work fine, I think, from a traditional standpoint. But to truly, I think, get ahead of the game and really incentivize the right stuff, you got to be a bit more flexible on your comp program.
Yeah. So are the HRIS systems or the payroll systems even set up for that? No. So that's going to be another challenge.
But look, that's a great example you just gave. HRIS. Sometimes you have to put new employees in a training for 2 weeks to learn how to use it. I mean, think about the apps on your phone. Did anybody train you to use the apps? No, it's a self-discovery. That's where we need to get to with things like our HRIS. We don't have time to wait 2 weeks to learn how to enter your time and everything else, right? It needs to be almost like an app where it's intuitive. I can do it. I can keep moving. Otherwise, it's just too darn slow. It's just too darn slow, right? So HRIS is a little bit behind most of them. Some are making some good strides, but in general, they've got a lot of work to do. You guys got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your book then, and the new work exchange.
So I was giving a speech, and there were some Forbes people in the audience, and I had made a comment about how traditional management was, in all essence, dead. It doesn't work anymore. The same incentives and whatnot. And so we started talking about that construct, and they said, hey, can you kind of write all this stuff down? Like, sure. So, Forbes published the book. It was great to have them on board because it reaches a business community that we may not necessarily have reached, being a TR Association us directly. But I was trying to really make the argument that the workforce of today, it's not the same workforce that you had before COVID, right? They came back differently, and I want to reshape the role that people play in organizational success. It's not this I work for you kind of mentality. It's raising that experience to feeling like a true stakeholder. Even if you're not a stakeholder in terms of stock, you need to feel important enough to do what needs to be done in order for the company to succeed. And there's just so much more we could be doing to elevate that. It's not just throwing more cash at people.
Right.
It might be offering a tad bit more flexibility. It may be just offering a little bit more of what you're really good at and doing more of it. I've never been a fan of job descriptions, by the way, because they really tell us in many ways what we're not going to do as much as they're supposed to tell us what we are going to do. And the fluidity at work today requires us to probably have a kind of a job description and then keep your mind open for 25% other stuff that just is going to have to be done that's not even in
right.
film, right?
Yeah, we like the job descriptions that actually have an outcome built into them. Yeah. So this is what the outcome is of the work that you're trying to do instead of just this bulleted list. Because that's just, and then also tying that back to company goals, ideally, reviewing that weekly, monthly. Yes.
And that would get at your earlier point around what does really good work end up looking like, right? You can kind of see it, and the more tangible we can make it, the better as people join your organization.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that sounds exciting. So then is there any kind of message you'd like to kind of deliver out to this crowd today? That's an important thing that you would like them to know about you and about why you're even here.
Yes. When you look at your annual revenue, 60 to 70% of your annual revenue goes to your people, their comp, their benefits, their total rewards. This is an enormous opportunity for C-suites and leaders to raise the value of their organization by simply looking at that construct, that 70% you're paying for total rewards, and optimizing it, right? There's so much you could do to increase profitability, to decrease costs. You want to pay people well, of course, but you want to be clear that the pay systems are optimized so that this exchange back and forth is truly reciprocal. Because that reciprocity at work is magic. It's truly magic when you can get it. So that would be my coaching for right now.
Okay, that's excellent. All right. Well, I think that's a good wrap then for this interview. Right. So, Scott, thank you so much for your time today.
It was my pleasure to be here.
Nice
thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining How I Turned the Corner today. And we will have some more interviews in the upcoming hour. So thank you so much.